The HP Omnibooks had the new keyboard, and I've discovered it accepts the mSATA hard disk too. That's not been part of any issue, so you can put in a really modern fast disk in it. But we got stuck, failed the diagnostics, level 2 cache problem. So I've ordered the new CPU and it's here. In this video, I'm going to install that CPU and we're going to see what happens. Will it finally allow us to pass the diagnostics and get an operating system onto it? We're going to go and find out now. Here is the CPU from Germany. They were pretty small, these CPUs, but then again you might say they were pretty large for a laptop. All your pins there on the base and then the die of the CPU here on top. This has the L2 cache in what's called on die, so it's on this CPU. So hopefully the plan is this cache is good, and when we swap it over, we get rid of the diagnostic error. Don't really remember changing too many CPUs back in the day on laptops. Of all the pieces of hardware I've ever worked with, CPUs are probably the most reliable. They were maybe a little bit more infrequently faulty. That's not even a great way of saying it. Let's say they were at their most unreliable when I started out in 96, 97, and as time went on they got more and more reliable to the point that you barely ever had to deal with them past 2005, except for getting a second one or a third one. They just didn't go wrong. And so this is actually quite an interesting experience, having to put this in and change it, because it's something that didn't happen very often with a customer's device. RAM, yes. Mainboard, yes. Hard drive, yes. CPU, no. Reliable bit of kit. Let's take the laptop apart and put this in and then run the diagnostics. Back on the desk, let's replace the CPU in the laptop. Keyboard off again. Not the first time this keyboard's come off this laptop, that's for sure. Get rid of the 2 screws in the top corner. Then the keyboard. It's fairly easy to move out of the way. Then here the heatsink. That needs to come out. Which again isn't too difficult to do. Quite a clever design this, because I can see here that they're using the channeling heat through copper that way down to here where the fan is, where the fan will blow the hot air out of the side. Really ingenious how all these different chassis of laptops were designed to maximize performance, minimize the amount of heat that was in them, and use different techniques in order to extrapolate the heat from the device. It wasn't always, you couldn't reside on a big fan because this isn't a PC, there's enough room for it. The heatsink out of the way. CPU. I was going to have a look and see whether I could find what might be like the North Bridge of the chip on here. We've got an Intel chip here, which is hard to read what it is. ATI range, so that's your graphics card there. BIOS appears to be here. There are some other chips under here. I'm going to suspect the North Bridge. The heart of the motherboard is this here, which admittedly doesn't look damaged in any way and would have sat underneath this part here of the heatsink, and has, yeah, you can see it's got the wedge of metal there and the paste on it, so that would have sat on top of that. I wonder if that's where that overheating occurred. Right, now to remove the CPU, that has a little clip on it there, which we've done before. We have to put the right head on the screwdriver and then we can turn the lock and change it out. Concern here is that this thing is a bit broken, perhaps. I don't know if that's broken before or broken by me. It said turn it 10 degrees there it goes. There's a click. 10 degrees anti-clockwise and it's out. And can be replaced. So I'm going to put that all back together again and we're going to boot up and try and see what happens next. The laptop is booted back up into DOS. So let's get into that diagnostic folder and run the HP diagnostics and see what it makes of this Pentium 3 500 new chip we've got. There we go, that's better. AMI diag. Okay, that's loading up now. The diagnostics again. It's F2, F2, and the diagnostics start. Let's speed through this bit and see what happens. I am going to go, fingers crossed. All the tests have completed and it's exactly where we were before. It's failed again. I think the suggestion has to be here that the motherboard has a fault. It's not totally failed because we won't be able to get to this point, but it has a fault. Might be somewhere I can go with this a little bit further in this video, I think, and find out what exactly might be the fault on the board. There'll be no way to repair it. There's not a component level repair that's going to happen on this motherboard. The only option for it will be to find a replacement. But my curiosity is about whereabouts it might fail. So the next plan of action is, if we can load FreeDOS onto this and we can run diagnostics, then clearly the computer is capable of doing certain tasks and actions. How far can we go? We've tried NT Workstation, it won't boot. We've tried Windows 98, it won't boot past the initial setup. But Windows 3.11, that could be interesting. It's sort of between the DOS and between those other operating systems. What happens if we try and install Windows 3.11 onto the laptop? Can we get that installed? And if we can, why does that work and the others don't? So let's have a go at that. Installing Windows 3.11 on this. Booted up to DOS. What I've done is I downloaded all of the disks for Windows 3.11 from Windows Online and I extracted them all into one folder because I remember when you install when you install Windows 3.1, it's able to pull all the files from each of the individual floppies as long as they're all in one location. It doesn't actually need you to rotate the floppies, which is pretty handy considering we don't have floppy disk with this. Let's go into that folder now and run the setup and see what happens. Okay, here we are. And we'll go with setup. Okay, and enter for setting it up. Express and custom. We'll have a bit of custom. C Windows directory. Yep. Okay. What have we got? MS-DOS, VGA, keyboard. I will make British. English American. No change matches my computer. Here we go. It's copying all the files over. Ooh. Bad fault in MS-DOS extender. This could be indicative again of the drive fault, couldn't it? Let's try again. I'll go with Express. Let's delete one letter off that. Oh, that's weird. I wouldn't have expected it to do that. Go with custom again. Angela, I know where that location is. I've got that. Okay. Yeah, I've got something here. We've got something here. So we can carry on with the installation. We're not going to want to set up any printers. Well, let's carry on. Okay. And it's binned out again. Back at DOS. CD Win 311. Setup. Enter. Express. N for new installation. Okay. Less errors this time. That looks more like the proper setup, I think. That looks like it's what it's supposed to be doing. Right. Let's reboot and run Windows 3.11. Splash screen and nothing else. It should have loaded by now. Yeah. Kind of doing what the other operating system did, isn't it? It's getting so far and then not booting any further. If I can Control Alt Delete and restart it. Doesn't sound like it. I'm going to have to hard power this one off. Let's see what happens after we hard power off. There are some switches that you can run with Windows 3.1 so that we can maybe run it without enhanced memory. Okay, here we go. Win/S. Oh. Yes! 3.11's loaded without enhanced memory. File manager is in place. That's very interesting, isn't it? I wonder if AmiDiag runs inside Windows. No, it doesn't. It failed. It's not meant to run that way. My suspicion is here, what I'm doing is I'm running Windows 3.1 without enhanced memory and enhanced drivers and protected mode. It's running in what would have been standard mode, which is supportable for a 286, which is a mid-1980s computer. If I run the switch ? On Win, it'll tell us what the possible options are for running it. Yeah, Win/S is standard mode. And that does load Windows 3.1, which says to me, we've got a problem with the motherboard at the level of dealing with enhanced mode, protected mode, anything that was basic 386 and above. We've got basic 286 mode here, and that's why it's loaded. So it's the equivalent of almost running DOS. It's not much more than DOS. That's why we've been able to get this to appear on the screen. So yes, it is the motherboard, and I need to get another one of those or find a solution to get the Omnibook working. The Omnibook 900 has reached the end of the path that I can take it for now. Interestingly, I like the laptop a lot. There's something about that whole style from the late 90s that I find intriguing. It was definitely one of the more high-end laptops. It was also definitely one of the more rarer laptops, or one that failed fast. It's kind of disappeared in the way that a British Leyland Metro's disappeared, this laptop. I've had a look on eBay. Can I get a motherboard for it? Not at the moment. Can I get a replacement model for it? Not in the United Kingdom. There are 2 Omnibooks that are in the United States, but I'm really looking at over £100 to bring that back to the UK. And these are working Omnibooks, so it kind of defeats the point of what I was trying to achieve. I think for now, the best plan is to park the Omnibook, save my searches on eBay, and see whether one comes back up in the UK that I can get the board out of, or even at some point if a board ever turns up. It is a little bit more difficult doing retro builds and restoration with IT, because with cars, you either get people who manufacture the part after the expiration of the patent, and so there are parts manufacturers for Morris Minors, etc., and other Minis and things like that. Or the original providers on more modern cars, BMW, Mercedes, still manufacture the parts, and you can go online and order them. But there's nothing for IT. It's not possible. HP isn't going to make any of the parts for this piece of equipment, and no one else is going to make any third-party parts for that piece of equipment, because it's an almost antique in the world of IT. So the only option you've got is to go onto eBay, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, and hope one comes up, or you know somebody in a club or a Reddit subreddit who's got one and will sell it to you. And that's the place we are at the moment. So we reached the end of the path with the Omnibook. It's been a lot of fun, actually. I've really enjoyed it. I gave it my best shot. I think everything that I possibly could have tried on it, I've tried on it. And we've understood in the journey some of the reasons why certain aspects of the operating system would load and other aspects wouldn't. And one of the bigger challenges originally I thought about not having a floppy or a CD-ROM turned out to not be a challenge at all. That's a process I've got back to front and inside out now for the next time. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe if you did. The playlist will close down for a while and I'll be back when I find another part for it. And from that, I'm going to move on to the next one. So I'll see you on the next video. Ta-da!